Hello, candidates. My name is Dr. Emrul Hasan, professor here in BC, Canada, and I'm also the content director here for the CFA program here at Princeton Review. So you've recently probably hearing a lot of noise around you about this May 2021 CFA Level 1 exam pass rate, which is 25%, historically low rate, where the average was 43% so far. We wanted to quickly do this video for you to try to reason or explain this 25% pass rate as much as we can. Even though we don't have a lot of information around this, take this 25% into your mind and prepare for the exam in August and in November and going forward. Let's begin. Let's try to explain this record low CFA pass rate, and also let's figure it out how to better prepare for level 1 exam going forward. One thing, that comes to mind right away as an academic too, that candidates were probably not well prepared at all. And it's probably not wrong, because we know what happened during this pandemic. Look, I know there's a lot of noises on Reddit. A lot of candidates are saying so many things about CFA Institute, so many things about people like who are taking the exams around them and all this stuff. But as a teacher, as an academic, where I've taught so many courses online during this whole pandemic over the last 2 years, I see how students' total study patterns have changed, right? So if you are a student, you also know how things have changed. So students have suffered from serious pandemic fatigue maybe, but you can argue that the February passing rate was higher. So why not the pass rate was lower during February too? That I cannot answer, but I can clearly see as you keep pushing the exams from one period to another, which CFA Institute also said in their Reddit post, if through their official account, that is stop-start nature of the preparation was also not ideal for the candidates. What it means that, let's say you started preparing for June 2020 exam. I have a lot of students in universities who actually were training under me to write the exam in June 2020. Then the pandemic hit, and then the exam moved to December. Then they took a break, and they again started studying in October. Then December exam didn't happen in so many places around the time. Then they moved to February, and a lot of them got frustrated. I have a WhatsApp group where I see the frustration of these students, that why they keep pushing the exams to next period. And if students are young, they get frustrated with very minor things here and there. So I understand this pandemic fatigue. I did not face this as a student, so I can't really say, but I do train a lot of CFA student and also university student where I see are highly fatigued by this whole pandemic, and that can clearly be one of the biggest reason. A lot of these candidates were probably also unsure till last minute when whether the test will take place or get postponed. That's an uncertainty, right? When there is an uncertainty, the brain doesn't function that well. You probably won't prepare at all or prepare at the last moment. And CFA is something that you cannot cram. Let's say if you're writing the exam in May and you start studying, like, let's say, first week of May, so you have about 3 weeks to write the exam, not enough for CFA exam. What I dearly and very, closely believe that the exam difficulty was probably the same. That's also what CFA Institute is trying to say. Again, I'm not 100% sure, but from my experience, what I've worked with a lot of my colleagues and teachers who have worked with CFA Institute before, I know that the quality of their people, they administer these exams, and how hard they work to make sure the exam difficulty and everything is fair across every exam that candidates are writing. Otherwise, you're probably asking this question: the exam is multiple choices. Why it's taking too long to grade? Isn't it just a machine that's grading? It's actually not. There is a human behind it who goes through the exams too to make sure they have graded fairly. Even when they prepare the exam, it goes through so many different people. So I think the exam difficulty was probably the same. I trust CFA Institute on that. But again, I'm not 100% sure. We're just trying to give you some reasons to calm you down. Next, some might have registered for the exam just out of boredom. That's actually one of the candidates just recently told me, because what happened, think about this. a lot of third or fourth year undergraduate students write CFA exam. And they're not going to school. They're taking a lot of online classes, and a lot of these online classes are pretty boring because for a lot of teachers, it's not easy to teach online. So basically, it feels like talking to a robot or in a screen all the time. So they realize, hey, how about this? I go to a center and actually write an exam. Or maybe, you know what, during this pandemic, it came up with an economic recession at the beginning. So a lot of people probably lost their job. They thought, you know what, during this, even I did a lot of career info session during this pandemic. I kept telling people, hey, this is the time to get like more skills. So maybe a lot of those people actually wrote the CFA exam just to get out of this boredom. And they're not prepared at all, just wanted to give it a try. Maybe that's the reason. Next, some candidates just decided to write it anyways to get some experience. It's connected to the previous point that I have, that even though I see a lot of candidates, they're not fully prepared, I always tell them, you know what, still go ahead and write the exam. I heard in a statistic somewhere that about 15 to 20% candidates never show up for the exam. They get overwhelmed because they try to cram. But I tell my students, even if you're not prepared, go and take the experience. So maybe a lot of them just went there to take the experience, who knows? And the last topic here, that some candidates wrote the exam maybe to make a career switch, but they are not really finance focused. That's possible too, because there are several things happened during this pandemic. First of all, there was a recession. A lot of people lost their job. Second of all, there was a V-shaped recovery. The market has done amazing. I've seen people owning penny stocks got super duper rich, and this is why the real estate market in Canada is also booming, right? Because a lot of young people have a lot of money from a stock market that they want to invest. So that pushed a lot of people to be what they wanted to come to the finance area, but their background was probably not finance or even business, right? They probably went ahead and wrote the exam, wanted to make a career switch, not really well prepared, and failed. What can be the other possible reasons, other than the fact that it's not a fact, I'm just guessing, the fact that students probably were not just well prepared? The other reason just floating around, that MPS, which is the minimum passing score, was probably just too high this time around. There are some people, expert with the quotation, people online is trying to calculate this minimum passing score of February 2021 exam, where the passing rate was about 44-45%. And they recalculated that the minimum passing score is probably about 72%. If that's the case, we have been kept telling students, you know what, if you aim for 70%, you pass level 1 exam, and the passing mark is probably around 66-67%. But if I take that information into account, and the new minimum passing score is about 72, maybe for this exam, the passing score was even higher. In my last slide, I will talk about it and how to tackle this possibility that the passing score probably has gone up to maybe even 75%, who knows? Again, we don't really know. CFA Institute never talks about their minimum passing score. So every quarter for every exam, they set a minimum passing score. And based on that, they decide what proportion of students they want to pass. That, which is the number 25% for May 2021 exam. The next point, maybe CFA Institute wanted to ensure that more students pass level 2 and do not get frustrated in the whole process. Let me give you an idea. This will sound weird. Look, level 1 exam is fully multiple choices. I've even seen some very few people like actually crammed and passed the exam, but the number are very, very few. The reason it is multiple choices, there are 3 options, and if you guess, sometimes you might even guess correctly and you pass. There's a lot of candidates like that. They get overconfident and they write level 2, they eventually fail. So they probably saw in either this May 2021 level 2 exam or the previous level 2 exam, a lot of candidates who are passing on the margin, like they're getting 65%, 66%, are not actually passing level 2 exam, right? So, and this is what a lot of candidates get frustrated. Even, to be honest with you, like I'm a PhD too, right? And I have other certification, but I can still tell you, I tell my candidates that the CFA level 2 exam is probably the toughest exam I've ever written. So maybe a lot of the candidates who passed on the margin level 1 not good enough, the preparation was not good enough to pass level 2, and they start complaining, right? So, and they, maybe the CFA Institute is thinking in the right direction. They're trying to save time for those candidates and making the exam unique for people who really give their time for level 1 to understand the concept, which is the whole goal at this place that we are working right now, to teach you the CFA concepts and other things that are highly testable in the CFA exam. Maybe the CFA Institute is also thinking in that direction. Other point can be, look, this is what I believe as an academic. This is very important. The third point, very, very important, that the moment I heard in 2020 that the 2021 onward, the exams will be shorter. They're going to go from 6 hours to 4.5 hour exam. I got a little bit frustrated, to be honest. I understand why they did this, because the exam is computer based. You might get a computer screen fatigue or something. That's why they did it. And they also did some kind of a research and found that 4.5 hours exam is optimal. I get it. But think about this as a student. Let's say I'm taking a midterm exam, and I'm telling you the midterm exam have 20% point, and I give you 20 multiple choices for it. You'll be frustrated because each multiple choices is really heavily weighted for you now. If you get it wrong, you just lose 1% of the whole course, right? Instead, if I give you 40 multiple choices, you feel better. It's a longer exam. Even if I miss 1 or 2, the probability of getting a higher mark increases. I try to explain this as much as I can. I keep saying this in all the info session that I do for CFA Institute, CFA everywhere, that the shorter exams are probably going to make things tougher anyways. Again, you could argue then why the February passing rate was higher then. Wasn't it also a shorter exam? I get it, but we don't know exactly who wrote in February or in May. But I just wanted to tell you at the same time, while trying to find reasons for this 25% pass rate, that can also contribute to this very shocking pass rate of 25%. Some other possible reason can be maybe CFA Institute is trying to raise the value of the charter. There has been a lot of noise around this too, which is point number 2 in the slide. So maybe they want to make sure, like, look, about 10 to 11% actually finishes the whole program, right? How do I come up with this 10 to 11%? So let me give you a simple math, okay? So let's say about 40% student pass level 1. Then about 50% of them pass level 2. Numbers are like, I don't know the exact numbers, I forgot, but anyway, let's multiply them. And then about 50% of those pass level 3. So if I multiply these joint probabilities, this come to around, I don't know, 10% or something, right? So that's the number that we normally tell a student. What is the probability that you'll pass all 3 levels in the first try? Again, this math is probably not right, but that's not the point. The point is, by making the passing mark lower or passing rate lower, probably they increase the MPS. The CFA Institute increased the MPS a little bit, which might raise the value of the whole charter, which suddenly makes people who have CFA extremely valuable. Also, maybe they realize the demand of financial analysts in the market is not high as the supply. CFA Institute have a candidate body of knowledge. It's called CBOC, candidate body of knowledge, that they always consult to change their curriculum. They also come up with new ideas. Maybe they saw the demand of analysts is not that high, and there are so many analysts coming from so many ways. So they wanted to make the CFA charter highly valuable. I kind of I understand this reasoning, and I'm okay with this reasoning, to be honest. So first one, this is kind of the funniest reason. The first point here, I want to talk about this later. A lot of people are saying that CFA institutes are just trying to grab money. As other teachers are talking on YouTube and here and there who are very expert in CFA, it's very clear this is not about money. CFA Institute is a non-profit organization. They have no shareholders. They don't have to please the shareholders to get money. Even I saw some information online where CFA Institute have a lot of cash in their balance sheet already. But look, balance sheet have nothing to do with profitability in this case, right? You have a lot of cash doesn't mean you won't go for profit. But CFA Institute focus is not to make profits, right? So I don't buy this whole first point anyway, that they're trying to make more money to make the exam more difficult. Third one on the slide can be a very good reason that there has been a lot of reported technical issues online with the Promatic Center or Promatric centers who are actually administering this CBT or computer-based test. And all the software is also dying in a lot of places. And in the Promatic centers, the staffs are, and a lot of the staffs are not really trained to handle this CFA exam. This might have also affected the exam of a lot of candidates. But probably CFA Institute will give those candidates a rewrite anyway. I'm not even sure if those exams were counted towards this calculation. For example, there were some teachers are also saying online that a lot of these students don't even write CFA. Maybe CFA Institute took those candidates into account to calculate this 25%. I don't think so, by the way. Anyway, so but again, you can argue that why not in February then? I don't know. But this can be a good reason too, because the reports about the Promatric centers and CBT software, all those technical issues are just showing up right now online. The fourth one, actually, when I was going through the Reddit comments, there is one of the candidates said, which I kind of understand, that some locations did not have May exam due to pandemic. Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like places such as India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and all those places, the passing rates are higher. I'm not saying that. But this is what a lot of candidates are saying in Reddit, which I kind of understand, because we have to take this into account if I wanted to give you a reason that maybe the passing rate is higher in those locations where no exam happened. So the only locations where the May exam was administered, they had historically low passing rate. Who knows? We don't have location-specific passing rate information for CFA Institute right now to make a decision on this. Don't take this 25% into your mind too heavily. Let's talk about the game plan going forward. Okay. First of all, prepare for a higher MPS. That's my first suggestion. Like I said in the previous slide, maybe the calculation was wrong, but anyway, about 10 to 11% candidates finishes the whole program. The exam is difficult. We know that. It doesn't matter 40% is student passing or 25% is student passing. It is a difficult exam. So instead of looking for a 70% pass rate, look for high, like aim for 80%. So all the mock exams, all the practice exams you do, now why not aim for 80%? And that's the only thing you can take away from this 25% pass rate. So if you want to be in this top 25% now, grind harder and learn the important concepts very well. And this is where a good prep provider comes into play. A good trainer comes into play. Did not pass the exam? Take it again in November, which I will actually push you to take it in November if you're listening or looking at this video. The reason is for 2020 and 21, the curriculum did not change. They kept the curriculum same due to pandemic. But 2022 curriculum have changed quite a bit. Normally every year the curriculum changes by about 5 to 7%. But from 2019 to 2022, the curriculum changed about 30%. I'm personally working on updating the curriculum right now. So if you wrote the exam in May, your preparation is, and you failed, unfortunately, your preparation is not a waste, right? You write in November and try to pass the exam. But look, you can take it again in next year in February, but you have to learn some new content, such as corporate finance have changed almost completely, which is called corporate issuer now. Alternatives changed and they've changed the focus significantly. There are new readings in quant, one new reading in portfolio management, also one new reading in ethics. So it's better to go for the November exam. And but again, it's up to you whether you really want to take all this information, negative information around this passing score in your mind, or just go grind and write the exam in November and pass. Cannot only focus on these higher weighted topics like a lot of candidates do, like ethics, FRA, fixed income, and equity anymore. You have to focus all the topics. You have to know what are the concepts, those are highly testable. What are the concepts, those are like, there's a very high chance of showing up in the exam. What are the concepts, those are difficult to understand? And again, I keep saying this is where a good trainer and prep provider comes into play. How to tackle this 25% pass rate information and still prepare for the exam? I would say don't worry about it at all. So I still believe in CFA Institute that the exam difficulty is probably same. I know that CFA Institute administers this exam with a very strong and talented pool of CFAs who are also academic. So I completely trust them, and you should too. And there may be other reasons behind it. But again, whatever the reason is, let's not focus on that and try to focus on how to be within that 25% students who have passed the exam going forward. You have to grind hard, you have to prepare hard, just aim for a higher passing score, and that's all I can say at this point. This is exactly where a good prep provider comes into play to tell you what's important, what's not for the exam, and focus on the concepts, those are highly testable. With that, I want to wish you good luck.